Hello and welcome back to Coding with Kenny G. So this is the beginner series where we are building out a little turret or cannon tower game object and learning programming. And in this episode we are going to learn about variables. Variables are the properties that define what an object is and what an object can do. So we're going to get into programming. Let's get going. Move myself here and then close this as always. Okay, so we're going to have the turret scene open. That was the scene that we used in the previous episode. Where we learned to write hello world, I am a turret. Well, we're going to open up the turret script. And we're going to discuss a little bit about what we are doing here. So, in the last episode, we wrote the start function down here. And we're just going to keep that for now. We're not going to touch that. But I'm just going to give myself some space up top here. We're still going to have to write code within the opening and the closing curly brace of the class called turret. But up at the top of our class, there is a coding standard where we are placing typically public and private variables up at the top of a class. This is a coding standard. Semantics is called in the very fancy wording. But let's write a comment. We add oh, excuse me, a little cup of coffee. There we go. We add variables at the top of a class. Variables define the properties of the class. Now, okay. So, these are also called fields. Variables belonging to a class are sometimes also called fields. We're going to call them variables. So, first of all, we are going to try to think a little bit about a starting point here. We're going to define a few different types of variables so that you learn a few different data types and we can see how it interacts with the Unity editor. First of all, I'm going to write public string turret name in camel case. What that means is that we're starting with a small letter, and then every word afterwards is starting with capital letter. So small turret, all in small letters, and then capital letters of name. Turret name. Yeah. And we can give this string variable a default value. And we can call it Big Bazooka. That's a default name of a turret. Okay. So I'm going to demo a few things here. First of all, you see that there's something called public. This is an access modifier. Yeah, it can either be public or private or something called protected, which we are not going to deal with now. We are going to call this public. This means that this variable is visible to the outside world, outside of this script, including the Unity editor. If it was private, this variable would only be visible to this class itself, meaning that the Unity editor will not see it. So let's demonstrate it right now. I'm going to call it public string turret name equals big bazooka with inside opening and closing quotation marks and with a semicolon at the end, denoting that the statement is completed. Yeah, I'm going to save this script, Control Shift S. I'm going to go back to Unity, let it compile, bada bing, bada boom. Currently, this script lives on our Hello World game object. And right now, if you see on the inspector on the right side, we see that there is a variable available called turret name with the value of big white space bazooka. Yeah? That is the default value that we gave it here. And the reason why we can see it in Unity in the inspector is because the variable is public. Now I'm gonna demonstrate what happens when it's not public. So I'm gonna write this as a private variable, private string turret name. Save the script so that it compiles when we go back to Unity. There we go. And now with the hello world selected in the hierarchy and the turret script in the inspector, the variable is gone. It's not available anymore. That has to do with the access modifier. We're gonna write that back to public and I'm gonna save the script, go back to Unity again, let it compile. There we go. And then we see that the turret name variable is available again. And you can also edit the value here inside of the input field in the inspector. We can call it Kenny G, right? And then we have changed the value locally inside the scene. So this overrides, actually, the default value defined in our script. It's just something to know. And if I want to reset this turret script back to its default values, I can, in the inspector, on the right side, where the 3 dots are on the turret script, I can click reset here. And then it'll reset all the variables inside of the turret script to their defined default values. I'm going to go back to the script in Visual Studio. So the turret. Okay, so a few more properties of what a turret is. We're going to define it a little bit naively to begin with. And then we're going to try to tighten this up as we go across the next few episodes and how to structure such an object. But right now we're going to do it naively, just placing everything inside of this script here. So now we're going to write public int ammo, let's write it very distinctly, ammunition count. Remember the camel case? So we start the variable with small capital letter, and then every subsequent word we write with large capital letter. Ammunition count. And let's say every turret starts with 10 ammunition. And then we end with a semicolon. So now we learned a new data type, int, int. Integer stands for, well, integers are whole numbers. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. without a decimal. A decimal denotion on the number, yeah. So okay, let's say our turret has an ammunition count of 10, and then let's say that whenever we are reloading this turret, right, we use up ammunition as we shoot cannonballs. But when we reload, there is a reload time, the time it takes to reload before you can sort of shoot again. We're going to define this as a property of the class. So we're going to write public float reload time. Remember the camel case. And that is going to default to, let's say, 1.5 seconds. So I had to define, what is a float? Sorry. Okay, what is a float? Float means a floating point number. What that means is that it's a number that has decimals. Yeah, so it can have a certain amount of decimal numbers in it. Very commonly used in game development. And the way that I'm writing it is one dot, so it's not a comma, it's a dot. When we are assigning it the value 1.5 f. F in small letters means that it is a float. So that's how you define it, yeah? Okay, cool. So this is sort of like a start of understanding what a variable is. I'm going to save the script, and then I'm going to go back to Unity. It already compiled. And then we're going to see our variables available here on the right side. Sorry, I have a little bit of a coarse throat. Probably because I'm talking too much about coding. Okay. So we see the variables ammunition count, and then we also see the reload time of 1.5. The little letter F is ignored in the display, you might say. It just knows that it's a floating point number. Okay, cool. So this is how we start defining our objects. But in this episode, I also want to try to use a variable. And we're gonna do this down in the start function where we wrote in raw text previously, hello world, I am a turret, in the debug.log statement. Now we're gonna learn how to actually reference or use a variable. So inside of the opening and closing parentheses of the debug.log statement, I'm going to delete the previous text, or actually, no, just keep it. And then we're going to write another debug.log statement below it. We're going to write again debug.log with the capital letters, and then start an opening parentheses, and within it we're gonna do something a little bit cool. I'm gonna click the quotation marks so that we get an opening and a closing quotation mark. And then I'm gonna write my name is, and then a white space, so that it ends on a white space before the closing quotation mark. And after the closing quotation mark, just gonna give it a little white space here, and then I'm gonna write plus on the keyboard, and then we're going to reference an actual variable inside of our script, and I'm gonna write turret name. You see here in the IntelliSense gesture of Visual Studio, we want to reference, or talk to a variable that we have on top here called turret name. And then we're going to end this statement with a semicolon that we generally do, right? Remember? So what will happen here? First of all, we are writing raw text within the quotation marks here. My name is, with a white space before the closing quotation mark. And then after that, we are writing plus, and then we are referencing a variable that we have defined. So what will happen is that it'll say, hey, there's a variable called turret name. What is the value of that turret name? So after the equal sign, what is the value assigned to the variable? In this case, it's Big Bazooka by default, right? Defined within these opening and closing quotation marks. And what's going to happen here is that we're going to add these two strings together. So my name is and the string value of the variable called turret name together to form a sentence. This is called, in the fancy pants wording of things, a string concatenation. We are adding strings together to form a sentence. But okay, that's cool. So what can we do to display this, right? Well, the expected result is that our console in Unity will print a line called "Hello world, I am a turret," which is hard-coded here. And then after that, it'll write another new line, because we have a new statement of debug.log below it, where it's going to write my name is, and a white space, and then the value of the variable called turret name. Cool. That's the expected result. We're going to save the script and go back to Unity, let it compile. Oh, there we go. I'm going to open up the console, and I'm going to click clear so that it's just empty here. Okay, and then we're going to press play, and hopefully everything will just do the things it's supposed to do. So now it's writing to the console, "Hello world, I am a turret," and a new line, "My name is," and then Big Bazooka. Now I'm going to demonstrate overriding the default value of a variable. So with the Hello World game object selected in the turret scene, in the inspector, I'm going to change the variable value of turret name. Instead of Big Bazooka, I'm going to call it Kenny G. And then I'm going to press play. And then you see in the console, "Hello world, I'm a turret," and my name is Kenny G. So the value that we wrote in the inspector here overrides or takes priority over the default value assigned to the variable turret name. And also, I'm just gonna reset the script turret back to its default value so that it says Big Bazooka here. Press play again, and we're gonna see this change again. This is a very foundational thing in programming, because referencing variables, right? I'm not hard coding. My name is Big Bazooka here. I'm referencing a variable with a value that we can easily change either manually in the inspector here or during play or run time, as it's called. Variables get updated all the time, right? During when we are playing video games. That's the point of variables, and this is how we construct computer programs that do cool things. For example, right, when we are shooting bullets, the ammunition count goes down, and then at a certain point the ammunition will be 0. Oh no, we're empty of ammunition and we have to reload. So we are using these variables and updating them, modifying them, and referencing them in script all the time. I think this is a pretty good introduction to just getting a feel for variables. We are going to structure this turret object with variables and using these variables much more going forward. But I think that's enough for now. So subscribe to my channel and like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.